This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/Film Riot and use the code Film Riot to get 68% off of a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month free. A little over a month ago, we released the making of Snowbirds, which is Justin Robinson's latest short film, and I thought it was a really gorgeous short, which if you haven't seen, link in the notes below. But because I really connected with that look and feel that went along with the story so well, I asked Justin and Brent Christie, his DP, if they would put together something that we could show you guys that dove into their ideas and process behind getting the look that they ultimately did, especially since it's something like last week that I think is really helpful if you are involved in the Make Film Challenge right now. And before we get into that, Justin actually released something else recently, which is a feature documentary. It's about an hour long called My Brother Jordan, which is all about his late brother, Jordan Robinson, and is really one of the most beautiful documentaries I've ever seen. Insanely impactful, and I would feel this way whether I knew him or not. And once you watch the documentary, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's something that he's been working on for 8 years and just finally released, and it was an absolute labor of love, and every frame oozes of that love. It really is an incredible thing to watch. So definitely jump into the links below and watch that as well. I promise you will not regret it. But now, with all that said, we're gonna go to our man in the field, Justin Robinson. Justin?
Sure, Ryan. I'll talk about the visuals of my short film called Snowbirds, sometimes mispronounced as songbirds, snowy birds, and my personal favorite, snowballs.
I don't know whether you can hear me or not. But come and see me, Harold.
Initially, with the opening shot of Snowbirds, I wanted to slow dolly in on Agnes as she looks at her husband's headstone, but I quickly realized that that would be pushing through this fake headstone that's held by a C-stand, and it would affect and change her eye line as it would change with the camera. And I didn't want those outside sources to affect the heart of the scene. I wanted her to sit back unaffected by anything technical and just be able to do the scene. So I resorted back to one of my favorite camera moves of all time, which is just the static slow zoom in on the character. And initially, the starting frame of that shot was much wider and gave you more context of the headstone, of a cemetery, of a late loved one that's passed away. But due to unforeseen circumstances, I had to start that shot in the edit a little bit later, and so I feel like you lost a little bit of that context, because in a shot like that, I want to give you the time to realize what's happening, where you are, but also put you in the character's heart. And so I don't think I did that. So my buddy Brad for the first AC gave me the idea to maybe go shoot an insert, even though that is not my plan, my goal. And I think it does help band-aid the context of that scene.
All right, guys. Hey, we are rolling. Give us 5 minutes of more quiet than you are, but still work. It's fine. Thank you. Bye.
Is it the first one?
Yeah, it's supposed to be there now.
I'm here to talk about snowy pals today. Got them.
Oh my God.
Going into Snowbirds, we knew that Westcott Lighting was going to be a partner of ours, and thinking about the resources that they had available to us, we chose the 1x2 panels as our main lighting source for the majority of the film.
So tell me your names again.
I'm Rob.
In scenes like Agnes's living room, we had our key light come from the same direction as our window light. We chose to stack the 1x2 panels on top of each other to make a window shape.
We did have some lights punching through some shower curtains on the outside window.
And in the wide shots, we took out our Westcott lighting, and then for the close-ups and the medium shots, we were able to bring that in as a key and give that same feeling of natural light.
Now for that scene, I did plan and prep for a lot more coverage in that scene. But when Peppy sits down and it's that like medium close-up, kind of wider close-up, that's the only setup I have of her that entire scene. So as everybody who makes films knows, time is undefeated. And in that scenario of only having one setup of your lead talent in the most pivotal scene, one of the most pivotal scenes in your movie, it's all you can get sometimes. If that's the one setup that it's gonna be, and you in the edit know you're tied to that, and you're tied to that performance, so whatever you didn't get that you know you could have with another setup, you have to die to it. And that's something that I learned every film. You have to be so willing to die to things. You can dream big and your dreams are gonna be crushed, and you have to dream bigger again and they might be crushed again. But one day a dream is going to come true and I'm going to have 2 setups of my lead talent in my next film. Just give me another shot. With the church scene,
Let's pause right there so we can thank our sponsor, NordVPN. And we have talked about NordVPN several times on the show, but I think it's more important now than ever, where literally everything we do is online. It's the VPN that I personally use for years because it's incredibly affordable and can be even more so by going to nordvpn.com/filmriot to get 68% off of a 2-year plan, which makes your subscription just $3.71 per month. Now, normally the number one thing that you would love about NordVPN is security, but this year we're all home more than we've ever been home before. And the coolest thing here is that once you turn on NordVPN, you can select from thousands of servers in over 60 countries, which means it will seem as though you're in that country. And this is awesome for things like Netflix, since Netflix will give you a different experience and offer different content depending on the region that you're in. So there are shows that I can't get in the US that are available elsewhere. So if I wanted to watch Orphan Black, I can jump over to Germany, or if I want Doctor Who or Modern Family, I can connect to the UK, or if I'm feeling like a little bit of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I can just pop over to Australia. And like I said, switching your country gives you a totally different experience. Different films, different recommendations, and this goes for places like Disney Plus too. So if you're getting bored with what you have available, you can just flip that switch and you have a whole new selection. But again, it is that security too. Your ISP isn't able to peek into your underwear drawer, so to speak, and because of that, honestly, I just keep it on all the time. It's so fast that I really can't tell the difference with it on or off. So to protect yourself, your data, and get a different entertainment experience, go to nordvpn.com/filmriot and use the code FILMRIOT to get 68% off of a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month free. Now, unpause.
with the church scene, we had hoped for a sunny day. It was the first day of production. It was raining. So the ambient light in there was so drastic because those stained glass windows are sort of stained glass, but they also look like they're painted. So you lose like 3 or 4 stops of light just because of the way it's designed.
It took a lot of trial and error to try to punch light through the windows. A stained glass is very difficult to get an exposure out of if you don't have the sun on your side. What we ended up doing was uplighting and skip bouncing and any sort of lighting that just brought up the ambience in the entire room rather than look at the key light that could have been from the window. And the wide shots were difficult, but once we got closer in, that's when the Westcott 1x2 panels came in clutch to be our key light and not be overpowering, not feel like we did not need it to feel like the sun. And since we were able to build a wide shot that didn't have a high contrast ratio, when we punched in, we were able to play around and add a softer element to it.
Whatever happens, just try and keep an open mind.
With the medium scene, initially I had this intro, slow Dana Dolly through the doorway that was accompanied by some dialogue by Peppy, but I ended up cutting that. So what I should have done in retrospect is shot a clean, no dialogue, push in through the door just to give us some time to see what's happening, to register it's a new person, it's at her house, blah, blah, blah. Didn't do it, so I didn't have a great in editing. But that scene is a testament, if you watch it with this in mind. I don't shoot masters of the entire scene. I don't really shoot one setup through the entire scene most of the time. That close-up centered 25 mil of Peppy is only from point A to point B. And then the Dutch is point C to point D. And then the over the shoulder is E to F. It's from this spot to this spot. And so granted, it makes shooting a little bit awkward at times, but it's very specific to the moment. And so when I want to be here, close in, kind of like inside the conversation, that's for that part. When I want to be out of it, I think it's where we need to be listening rather than watching. Does it work? Who knows? But that was the goal of that scene.
The scene that always stands out to me is when Agnes is at the edge of her bed in contemplation. A scene that was day for night. We blacked out the window behind her, and we had 2 practical fixtures that ended up both being in the shot, and as well as a Westcott 1x2 panel in the corner, being motivated from that right side of camera.
Often in the films I make, we don't have consistent gear from film to film. We're using different things almost every time. And so the ability to have a consistent key light for every scene in those Westcott lights was so valuable for me and for Brent, our cinematographer, to know that that's one less thing we have to worry about and one more thing we have to count on.
Hey, by the way, it's 2020 and we all need a new shirt, you know what I mean? And everyone should buy one. FilmRiot.com.
And that's it for today. Massive thank you to Justin and Brent for putting that together, and a huge thank you to Westcott for helping us make the short film happen to begin with. I really love Westcott gear. We've shown it on the show before. You guys know I dig their stuff, especially their flex lights, how you can put them anywhere. But really, for places like that, it's also the people behind the gear. And there's a handful of companies where the people behind the gear are just as amazing as the gear themselves. And time again, the Westcott crew has shown themselves to be people that care about filmmakers and truly do want to add value to the filmmaking community, not just by making a buck with gear, but by actually helping and interacting with that community. So I really love them. Check out a link for their stuff below as well, of course, along with Justin's films and the Make Film Challenge. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.